Oh, guys, I'm so tilted. I recorded the whole tier list video and it had no sound because my microphone wasn't working. I'm an idiot. Guys, this is going to be my Honor of Kings tier list. I've reached Grandmaster rank. I've played over 200 games. I feel like I know the meta quite well. This is going to be everything you need to know for Honor of Kings to climb the ranks in solo queue using the best possible picks in each lane. I used online resources. I've used my own experience. I've used asking my friends. So credit to everything, credit to all the information that I was able to find online. There was a really great post on Reddit. I cannot remember the name of the person who did it. I think it was a player who'd been playing for a long time. He kind of produced a tier list that was very similar to how I felt about the meta. Some changes. There are some things that I think that he overrates and some things that he probably thinks that I underrate. But, you know, irrespective, let's get into it. This is not going to include picks that aren't listed in the game's individual lanes. There are some jungle picks and some other picks that may break that rule slightly, but for the most part, the heroes that you're going to see on this tier list are the heroes that if you clicked on Clash Lane, mid lane, roaming, jungle in the game would show you. So for Clash Lane, everybody here should turn up when you click Clash Lane in the game. Right, so let's start off. There's a common thematic for the best picks in the Clash lane, in my opinion. The first of which is that they are all tanks for the most part. Or at least you can play almost all of them tanks, except for Byron, who doesn't really play a tanky build. That is because tanks are overpowered, in my opinion, in the Clash lane. I think you need someone to be a frontline damage soak that provides some utility to the team, be that an engage tool, be that crowd control, whatever. But frankly, you need, for consistent success in solo queue, I think it's just better to have a tank because there is so much burst, right? In the meta, there is so much burst damage that if you don't play any kind of person that can absorb damage, you're going to end up being in potentially just run over by a single jungler that got fed. So I often find that if I'm playing Clash lane and I'm bringing a tank to the picture, we have someone that can engage, can soak damage, and can sort of eat skills for your team that would otherwise not be able to. So, you know, in my opinion, I love Dunn. I think Dunn is an incredible Clash laner. For those of you that don't know, Dunn has a passive that when he drops below 50% HP, he gains a time period where he's just able to basic attack or use skills, and if they land, he generates massive amounts of HP back. So that's really strong for him in the laning phase. That can be activated every 30 seconds. So that makes him a very strong Clash lane dueler, in my opinion. Arthur, Aeta, Elaine, they're all incredible. Sunsea, obviously, because of his engaged tools down the line. Hano, personally, Clash lane, best tier if played tank. I think if you play magic damage Hano, you are clearly going to be playing that primarily in the mid lane. Then obviously Byron. I think Byron is the only one here that isn't tank orientated, but especially for new players, extremely lane dominant and can also transfer that damage to team fights really easily. In terms of great picks, what you're going to see here is there are a lot of picks that, yes, there are tanks like Lian Po. I think Lian Po is not as strong as some of the other tanks because his in-lane trading potential is very low. But mostly here you're going to find things that are a little bit more split push orientated. I know Kaiser is okay in the Clash lane. Personally, I think he's better in the jungle, but things like Charlotte, Mayan, Lee Jin, Fuzi, they are all like very, very split push orientated. Like Charlotte, much more of a 1v1, Fuzi, much more of a 1v1. And while they can be useful in team fights, I think they are much better for like a sort of one-dimensional win condition, which makes them a little bit less flexible than those picks that are in the best category. But there you go. Decent picks, things like Lubu. He's okay. I don't massively rate Lubu. I think he is very easy to play, and I recommended him right at the start of my channel, and I kind of regret it now because he's one of those picks that is very easy to play and can be really strong, but just isn't as good as you climb up the ranks. And there are some picks that I think that you would need practice for. So, for instance, like Mulan, for instance. Mulan is a pick that, in my opinion, is super strong, but you really do need to know how to play her. You need to know when to switch weapons. You need to know how you can dance in and out of team fights easily. So I feel like with Mulan, she is a pick that, you know, gets better the more that you play her. There is obviously a pick here that you probably recognize. So, for instance, it is Guan Yu. Guan Yu is a very, very, very specific playstyle, and if you get really good at him, he can be very oppressive. But he plays so differently to the rest of these picks on this tier list that I think requires a lot of practice. And a lot of people also have the consensus that Yang Jian can be really good, but again, just requires the practice to know how you can go in and out of fights, how much health you can regenerate from his ultimate. Can be really strong, but again, just requires that practice to make sure that you are very capable with him. Right, let's jump over to the, if I can jump over to the mid lane now. There we go, we found it. All right, so in mid lane, personally, in my opinion, best mid laner in the game is Lady Zen, both competitively and from a solo queue perspective. She's got a lot of sort of area control that, in my opinion, you don't get from anybody else other than Princess Frost, and I think she just does it better than Princess Frost. So I really rate Lady Zen. I also think Angela, very strong. She's got a lot of team fight, crowd control potential. She is a lot of long range poke. She can nuke people really easily. She's very beginner friendly as well. We also have Heino. Heino is, I think, incredible. I think just one of the best poke units in the game. Can stay very safe with his ultimate. Can really punish people if they don't have a strong engage tool, and that's where Heino become really, really strong. And the only mid lane that I don't have a lot of experience with here, but I have seen rated highly on a lot of lists, is Xiao Kuao. She's the one that throws out like a parasol or something, or like something at you and it spins and does a load of damage and then goes back to her. She's really, really strong too. There are some picks in the great picks category that people might think, why are they there? So Princess Frost, like I said, I think is just worse version of Lady Zen. Milady, she is a great pick, but she's very kind of specific in her playstyle. She's much more orientated around taking towers, and then her teamfight potential's a little sort of off because she doesn't have much movement skill. She doesn't have much safety, but she can really push towers. She's really strong in that regard. She can take the game into her own hands. I really rate Daji, although I know a lot of people don't. I think her single target non-skill shot crowd control can be really strong for picking people out of position. I also think Dr. Bian, people don't rate him super highly on tier lists often, but I think he can be a really strong solo queue pick. There are a couple of picks in the decent pick category, like Mosey. I think Mosey's a better roamer than he is a mid laner, but he can be super strong in played in the right hands. And then there are just some picks down there in the good but needs practice category. So one of those is Zhu Yu. I think like really, really good and can be played excellently, but needs practice to be good as well. Another one that needs practice. Gan and Mo needs practice just to be able to make sure you know where to land your skill shots. And then, in my opinion, one of the most confusing and most insane mid lanes in the game is Nuwa. I personally think Nuwa needs a lot of practice. I honestly was unbelievably confused the first time I played Nuwa, but I know that she can be really strong just because of the way that she builds terrain, creates choke points. Just she feels really complicated to play, and so I think she needs a lot of practice to get her right. And that would be my walkthrough on the mid lane tier list. Let me know what you think about that. Now I've got to jump on to my other video because I split this into two parts, and again there was no sound, so we'll be back in a second. Okay, jungle. This one's incredibly populated because jungle has, for some reason, some of the most heroes listed in the game, and I guess because there's some flexibility between roles here as well. Now, going to call out the big one, Dianwei. I think he's the best jungler in the game for solo queue. He can single-handedly take over games, can completely steamroll enemy teams. He is an incredible pick. And really rate Dianwei. I think Zilong is also incredible. I think he's a very, very strong jungler. And you've also got some of the strong clash lane heroes that translate well to the jungle, like Dun, Atta, and Sun Ce. Personally, out of the two major assassins, one being Lam and one being Prince of Lanling, they are the two sort of major assassin types, although there are more assassins on here. I personally think Prince of Lanling is better than Lam. I think Prince of Lanling has more outplay potential, more difficult to play around just due to the stealth, but Lam can be really annoying and is still a very good solo queue pick. Both of them are great. You'll notice that the decent picks category has loads. I just want to call out a couple that I recently discovered were really strong. Agudo, I played with an Agudo who absolutely carried the living daylights out of the game. That was when I was playing a Sun Ce and went like 0-10, so Agudo very strong. I know that Yao, the new jungler, also very strong. I've seen Wukong's do incredible, and also Ying, another great kind of assassin type jungler that does super well. But there's lots of great picks in the jungle, so you have lots of flexibility here from the jungle perspective. I personally don't rate Butterfly. I know a lot of people do. Some people would put her higher. I just have never really seen a Butterfly do that well compared to a lot of the other junglers here. And there's also Fang. Fang's not a great marksman and also isn't the best jungler either, but can be played and can win. Just because it's in the decent pick category does not mean it can't win. Personally, would avoid Athena. The reason I'd avoid Athena is because she is much better suited when your team can coordinate around the vision that she provides when she dies. So therefore, like, Athena is not a great solo queue pick because very rarely you're going to be able to kind of play around the vision that she provides. There's also Lu Bu, again, just too slow to clear the jungle, and I don't think as strong as a lot of the other junglers on this roster. And then Li Jin, better in the clash lane, don't really rate him as a jungler. There are a few that I need to call out that can be really, really strong but need practice. both Pai or Pei and Jing, they are used a lot in competitive, but they do require practice, in my opinion, to be good. And then you have Li Bai, solo queue menace when played by the right person, but again needs the practice, in my opinion. And then possibly one of the junglers that needs the most practice in the game is Luna. Now the payoff for Luna isn't incredible, but she can be piloted extremely well in the right hands, but she needs practice, in my opinion, to be good. Right, let's jump into the marksman tier list. Here we go. So, marksman. I think the new marksman, the farm lane carry, Long, is incredible. I haven't seen much of them, but they are banned consistently, and every time they are in a game, they tend to dominate. So I have a feeling that they are extremely strong. Could be proven wrong later down the line. That's just my gut take right now. The other two remaining farm lanes that I really like are Hu Yi and Luban number 7. They're some of the most beginner-friendly heroes in the game, but they also have some of the most insane late-game scaling in the game as well. Very much like stand your ground, deal as much damage as physically possible type of farm lane carries, and I think that for solo queue that works really well. These are the types of picks in the farm lane that you can carry games single-handedly if you're able to get ahead, and Luban has got incredible lane presence as well. Like Luban can absolutely dominate from the lane when set up with the right kind of support too. However, there are loads of great picks that also work alongside these guys, like Luara, Lady Sun, Marco Polo, Alessio, and Consort U. I rate these very highly. They all have strong carry potential. Maybe I underrate Direnji and Garo here, but I've never really seen those guys do incredibly well. Direnji I've seen do really well in pro play, but again, it's one of those picks that you need to coordinate around a bit more, I think. The reason Direnji often gets picked up in pro play is not only because he's a strong pick, but also because he has the ability to attack turrets outside of their range, so you can slowly whittle away at turrets and get a lot of map pressure that way. Huang Zhong, I know Huang Zhongs have been good, but personally, just think compared to some of the other picks, not as strong. I personally would prefer Alessio over Huang Zhong. And again, Erin and Fang, I personally would avoid. Erin, I just think is too easy to play around, and I just don't think is as strong as some of the other picks. Although when an Erin gets ahead, she's very oppressive. I understand that. Just think otherwise, maybe avoid. Then in the good but needs practice, Arlie. I think Arlie might even be the strongest farm lane carry in the game, but she needs a lot of practice to be good. So again. And Shu Yi's the same. Shu Yi's practice mostly comes from skill shots. You just need to be able to land that second big skill shot of his and land it consistently. If you're missing those, you're kind of missing the majority of the damage from his kit and what makes him so good. So those are my thoughts on sort of the farm lane. Let's go into Roam now. Roam is one of my favorite roles. And if I could give my boy Louis Shan his own category, I would. I think Louis Shan is just absolutely one of the best roamers in the game. Can essentially walk up in lane with a speed boost, knock you up, then stun you, and then also just has an ultimate that just deals loads of damage in an area. He is really tanky, very difficult to kill, sets up fights, has an engage. Just think he's an incredible pick. But in terms of other picks that work really well, Dahlia here, Yaria, Zhang Fei. I know Zhang Fei, a lot of people don't rate him as highly as I do, but I just think he's incredible. And then I've actually never played Dong Huang, but I know that a lot of people do really rate Dong Huang very highly. In terms of great picks, Dukao is used a lot in competitive, but in solo queue, again, it's the coordination thing. She doesn't need that to be good. Like her two skills by themselves, her river skills and also the quick recall are great. Obviously, then the teleport is a cherry on top if your team can use it properly, but does require a bit of coordination to make work, in my opinion. You have Sun Bin, very beginner friendly, still very good. Kui, again, you need to land your hooks, otherwise that hero basically does nothing. And Kaiyan, I actually don't rate Kaiyan very highly, but I do understand from a beginner perspective and a beginner roam perspective can be really strong, but just is countered quite heavily by anti-heal, and so therefore I think if any anti-heal comes through, you kind of cut down Kaiyan's kit by a significant amount. I have never seen a good Zhuangzi in my games ever, and even though Dun is listed as a support, I personally wouldn't go around trying to pick him. I think obviously for his engage potential with his ultimate is very strong, but in the laning phase and kind of the early phases before you hit level 4, he's not as good. And I also wouldn't really recommend Zhang Yu as well from the support role. In terms of those that can be good but need practice, I think Liang can be incredible with the right player in the support role, and I think also Guiguzi. He's like Flicker from Vainglory, but again, requires a lot of knowledge to know how to play that at a very high level. Right, that is my tier list. Speed run it this time round, 15 minutes. Let's go. Enjoy. I'll see you soon.